supercharged big block Chevrolet's Cotton Candy. Cameron Neves out of McAdoo, Texas, triple engine big block Chevrolet's Cotton Candy.
McAdoo, Texas, Cotton Candy.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Oh, I can hear you. Can't quite see you yet, but I can hear you.
Yeah.
It's all right. If you're going to hide behind something, I can look at the Cotton Candy Modified for a while. There's worse things to have covering the screen.
Oh, you're good. I'm trying to find it here to get it off of there. That's it's eluding me right at the moment. There we go. There we are. Welcome, everyone. Tuesday nights, Outlawed Live with Ron Stone and co-host here recently, Mike Idle out of Bevier, Missouri. It's forever will be Bevier to me, Mike. So
works for me, man. How you doing tonight, Ron?
Good, buddy. Good, buddy. I took 2 years of French, so anytime I can try to utilize it, I can.
I failed like 4 semesters of Spanish and then eventually transferred to a school where I didn't have to take it. So
I took French in high school, took Spanish in college, and I can ask you how old you are and ask you what the weather's like. That's pretty much it. And say what's up. So, most of that stuff didn't stick. So
yeah.
So welcome to another riveting edition of Outlawed Live. Pretty special episode this week, Mike. Those anticipated letters of acceptance into the Farm Machinery Show. I think that's the 56th annual Farm Machinery Show. Put that up a little closer so we see what.
Well, I got my list. These are behind my hand are all the Outlaw pullers that have posted up. They've made it. I don't want to spoil it in case we go through the show, but I was taking notes and we've got all our Outlaw truck and tractor pullers that have accepted their invites to the National Farm Machinery Show, and it's not a short list. That's exciting.
Yeah, I haven't checked the Farm Machinery Show's website to see if they've posted. Have they posted yet?
I checked it today, and no, it's not up yet. Typically, they'll give their whole rundown of who's pulling what night and who's accepted, and it's not there as of about 9 o'clock this morning. But this is just through following Facebook and posting up on Outlaw's Facebook page. So I've got a tentative list of ones who are making it public, which is neat to see on social media when they come out with their reaction videos and their letters of recognition. That's been fun.
Yeah, at the moment we're at the mercy of those who have been accepted posting that stuff up. I've reached out to a few I thought would make it. Mm-hmm. Other than the ones that have posted on social media. and on the Outlaw Facebook page. Haven't heard anything back. People like George Byer, who won the points, he did say that he submitted his application. We can assume that he made it in, being that he was a champion.
One reason I think we can feel like that's a very safe assumption is because of what we've seen from some of the others in his class, which is a stacked class across the country, but in the Outlaws especially. And we've seen a few others. And if you kind of figure, well, the points champion himself, you would just imagine, if we're speculating that's just a matter of time before we hear from him.
Yeah, I think it's a safe assumption to say that George made it in. He's not on my list. But we can compare my list to your list. I bet we're probably going to have pretty much the same.
I imagine our sources were about the same source. So, yeah.
So, yeah. By the way, happy birthday to Taylor Van Beek. His birthday today, I think. Happy birthday to him. And also Kurt Van Beek. Happy belated birthday to Kurt as well. So, now here's my list that I have compiled from social media. Limited pro stock for sure. Gary Barrett, High Stakes Horsepower.
Yep.
John Deere out of Ravenna, Nebraska. Jamie Yonke, and moving on. Awesome news for her. That's going to be a great experience for Jamie Yonke.
She was one of the first ones that posted up, and I feel like that's a very deserving tractor and a very deserving young lady. She seems like one of those who's just full of energy and full of passion, and at a beautiful tractor. Looking forward to seeing that one going down the track in Louisville.
Yeah, she gave it a really good run this year in the point standings. Where did she end? Third, I think. Did she end up third?
I just had that pulled up because I was making sure I spelled Gary Barrett's name right.
Yeah, she ended up third in the point standings. So, yeah, Gary Barrett ended up second.
Which is why we're safely assuming that if, the number 3 got in, the number 2 got in, that George Byer. And I've noticed this in the past too. Louisville tends to be one of those things where they do give a certain amount of credence to your pedigree, meaning like if you've been there before, that is something they will take. And once you kind of get your foot in the door, it seems like that counts for something. And George pulled there last year with his frosted donut from Heck that he got, but he has been there before. I don't want to speculate for him, but I'd be shocked if he wasn't in.
Just looking at some of the comments here, we've got a lot of people checking in. Michael Perry from Missouri, Mark Crowley, 2-wheel drive puller from Iowa, checking in. Let's see, Jamie Arquois checking in tonight. Adam Abel checking in, asking if Side Piece is in. We are assuming. We were just talking about that. Let's see, Marty Samuelson, super fan Marty from Ravenna, Nebraska. John Robertson from the great state of Texas checking in. Dallas Todd checking in from Nebraska. Dusty Mincy checking in from Oregon. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Special show. If you're just joining us, we're talking about all the Outlaw pullers that we know at this point that have been accepted, received their acceptance letters to represent the Outlaws at the National Farm Machinery Show in February. 56th running of the National Farm Machinery Show. It seemed like in 18, there was the 50th. So, yeah, it would be the 56th running of it. That's pretty cool. So let's move on to limited pro stock. We're going to assume those 3 are in. Not sure about Lane Paulson. I mean, he was on fourth in the points, may have been on the bubble there as far as that goes. So haven't heard from them yet.
If we turn this into one of those, bracketology type shows or speculation shows, man, I would think so. Like, if just for my opinion, for what it's worth, I would say that one's going to be, like you said, it's a bubble tractor, it's a bubble vehicle, but I mean, he's right there with these other ones. So
it would be cool if he got in there, be 2 young guns in that one class, and the young guns are well represented. Yeah, in that pro stock class.
When I first started hanging out and working with Outlaw, the young guns, I thought at first was, oh, this is neat, just a way to recognize the younger competitors. the young gun fits them very well because they gun for you. They're not just a subpar group. I mean, they can stick to the clay and move the iron with the best of them, no doubt about it.
Yeah, a lot of our young guns, like you said, they come out and there's very little learning curve. I mean, they jump right in the mix and do a really good job of pulling with these veteran pullers. I mean, two-wheel drive, wow. Texas well represented in the two-wheel drive class.
Dollars to donuts if you're going to beat an Outlaw sanctioned two-wheel drive at Freedom Hall. You're going to need to have everything in working order. I feel like the Outlaw two-wheel drive guys, the Texas guys, and all the way across the board, the two-wheel drive class, they're tough in Freedom Hall, and you're going to have to go through the Outlaws to find yourself in the finals on Saturday night, especially in the two-wheel drive class.
Yeah, and my predecessor, Dave Bennett, the announcer for the Outlaws for many years, retired a few years ago. Came out of retirement at Rock Valley this year, but he used to always say it that about the state of Texas and the two-wheel drive class. You know, you got to go through the state of Texas to beat the best in the two-wheel drive class. It used to be Texas was four-wheel drive. You know, in the 80s, you go back, you know, in pulling history, and you had to beat the bad boys from Texas in the modified four-wheel drive class. You know, now it's two-wheel drive. I mean, check out the list. If you have the list, go ahead and read them off, Mike.
Well, I've got. Here's what I've come up with, and it is kind of a who's who of two-wheel drive pulling. We've got the High Cotton with Seth Markey or Cameron Pascal. All of your Nelson bullwhip corner. Along with Dustin Corliss, Ray Miller, and then I got Mindy Brown would be out of that same Nelson stable, I believe, too. So you're looking at High Cotton, another bad decision, Lil Whip It, Texas Bullseye, and I skipped over one somewhere. Maybe I didn't.
Did you mention David Hunt?
No.
Yeah, he won the points with the Texas Trucker Tractor Pullers this year, but he also pulls with the Outlaws. You know, he finished 12th overall in the Outlaw points, but he did win the Texas, and I'm sure that's where he got the credit to represent the Texas Trucker Tractor Pullers as well as the Outlaws. That would be awesome for that group as well if David Hunt were able to go down there and pull off a win. That truck, no slouch either. So, yeah, 6 Texas trucks is what I'm counting here, Mike.
And that's just on the posted up, confirmed. We're still skipping over some who's who names that, you know, the Zajacs didn't – I think they battled some hurt equipment this year. But I like I said, I feel like pedigree goes in when it comes to selection at Louisville. And I think they've won there before, even maybe won on multiple occasions. So I would not be the least bit surprised to see anything from them pulling there this year as well.
Yeah, Chuck Hobbs checking in from Illinois. Thanks for watching. Marty Samuelson, of course, plugging Gary Barrett there, who got accepted in the limited pro stock class. Jamie Qualls is the Outlaw Mod 4x4 run the same rules as PPL. Yes, all except for the weight limit. Jamie, the Outlaws run 6,200 pound maximum weight. PPL runs 6,350, so they're 150 pounds heavier with PPL. Engine and all the other rules are pretty much identical. NTPA, the difference with NTPA is they run a 650 cubic inch limit. PPL and Outlaws do not have a cubic inch limit. Something to keep in mind.
Mountain motors in the truest sense.
Yeah, something to keep in mind when you're watching the National Farm Machinery Show. Those trucks representing the NTPA do have smaller cubic inch motors, which doesn't always make the difference. I mean,
no, I say that can mean, I've seen it go every which way. I've seen the 650 motor mean a lot when it comes to going up against some of them that are over 800 cubes. And I've seen that not count for beams. I've seen those 650s. Well, this is a fun one to talk about. It was the Skeltons who used to run with NTPA and then jumped over and run with Outlaw right now. And the Rock is a great example of a truck that consistently is tough at the National Farm Machinery Show, and I've got him on my list as one that just recently posted up and said they got accepted.
Yeah, some of those guys that have those 650 motors and finish in the top, 5, top 3 with the Outlaws, week in and week out. Those guys are making up for cubic inch in the way of reading the track, of driver's skill, knowing when to apply the power and when not to, and reading the track. All important. It's not all just about horsepower and torque out on the track. You got to be able to manage it as well. Cole Lundahl checking in from Wakefield, Nebraska. Lots of Texas dual drives accepted for Louisville. Seen earlier, lots of Outlaws represented. Proud to see it. Thanks for checking in, Cole. Chuck Hobbs. Will be my first time attending NFMS, National Farm Machinery Show. Chuck, it is an awesome event. And if you go out into the exhibition area of the show, you'll walk your legs off, kind of like going to PRI. And lots to see. Just it's legendary to be there. I mean, it's kind of magical, if you're a pulling fan, So yeah, it's definitely something every pulling fan has to experience.
Yeah, it's at Louisville. Leave your cowboy boots at home. Put your tennis shoes on, or your comfy shoes, your Hey Dudes or whatever. But
I like the cowboy boots, buddy, but they would tear me up walking around that place in my cowboy boots.
I argue. So here's a fun point to talk about. I have argued with people before that actually, everyone talks about Friday night of anything, Saturday night of anything, Wednesday night. But I'm a big 4-wheel drive truck guy. I really like 4-wheel drive trucks, and I like modified tractors. I think Wednesday night at the Farm Machinery Show is potentially the best session in pulling. I think the lineup that they have for the classes that pull that night, if you want to look at one single session, don't sleep on the early shows. Get there if you can. If you're going, go to the Wednesday show, go to the Thursday show. The Wednesday night, that's the only night the 4-wheel drive trucks pull. They don't get a finals. So the Wednesday night show at Louisville is one of my favorite.
Yeah, the tractor guys are going to give you trouble from here on out. Now that you've let that leak out that you're a door slammer fan, right?
Maybe I'm a spark plugs fan, because here's the other thing: when the tractors I do, which I love it all, but if I am, if I'm going to pick my favorite tractors, they're the alcohol burners. So maybe I'm a spark plug guy. Maybe that's where it's at.
Maybe. I try not to let it show, but I used to pull trucks too, so
But the Skeltons are only taking, if I saw this right, they're just taking the rock, which has been pretty typical. I don't know if they don't apply the bone or where that lands. I think the bone could make it in. I think that one's right there with it.
I believe he won it a couple of years ago with the rock.
That's what I was thinking.
Finished in the top 3 last year, I think, if my memory serves me correct. So yeah, Ted Skelton, he knows what he's doing out there on the track. There's no doubt. Jamie, as far as I know, no, my band's not playing anywhere at the farm show or after, as far as I know. So it's still time between now and then. So you never know.
Another one we've got on here, we mentioned his name, but we didn't mention both vehicles. Cameron Neves is also going to be representing in the modified with Cotton Candy. And as far as I know, and Ron, you know the Outlawed contemporary and history much better than I do, but as far as I know, he's about the only one that'll run 3 1471s, which kind of gets him in the door as a good match with Louisville.
Kind of a disadvantage for him, being that he doesn't run that combination all year long, and then he adds that third motor that changes your gear combination, of course. And of course, adjusting for the air quality, in February in an indoor environment is also a challenge for all the teams, not just for Cameron Neves, but it's a little added challenge for him because he doesn't normally run 3 engines. He runs 3 engines once or twice a year.
Yeah, he told me twice last time I talked to him. He runs it at the Pullers Championship and at National Farm Machinery Show. And even then, he runs it once outdoors on a 350-foot track. He runs it once indoors on a 250-foot track, where one, you're going to want a lot more twist and flex, and one, you're going to want the frame a little more rigid. So he essentially gets to make one pass a year with 2 entirely different setups.
Yeah, that's got to be a little bit of a disadvantage for him, but he's willing to accept that challenge, and more power to him and good luck. I showed a little bit of footage from the old Cotton Candy there in the opening. If you saw the old 3-inch tractor that they used to run.
Transverse motors facing outward than the one on the front.
Derek Brown's door slammers, best way to go. Loud motors, great. Smoke gets a little slow. Austin netting. It's fun when we come down first year. Our friends didn't make it a few years ago. On the edge, 2-wheel drive. Awesome. So let's move on to we're talking about 4-wheel drives. Let's talk about the 4-wheel drives. Points champions, Lane and Murray Thornton.
Mm-hmm.
The Thumper confirming on social media that they are in.
They are?
Yes.
All right.
Well, maybe they didn't confirm on social media. I reached out to them to see, and then they were one of the teams that actually responded back. George Byer probably still out pumping and working.
So that was one I kind of thought that the Thumper 4-wheel drive was at the tippy top of my list of ones who deserve to be in there. Have they been there before?
I believe so. So.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on that, but I think they have. But yeah, awesome opportunity for them. They've had an amazing year with that truck. That truck was the one to beat this season. And then Eric and Joe Claypool invited back with Risky Business. They're always there in the top 3 or so of Outlaw points. And check those tires, Eric, before you pull in February. I don't know if you saw the video from last year or this year, Mike, but they blew a left rear tire towards the end of the track.
So that you saved me from saying a dumb statement then. So it wasn't this year, it's the year before. They got 3rd there at the Farm Machinery Show. I was going to say it was 23, but it must have been 2022 that they finished, that they got their 3rd place finish there. I'm fairly certain when I say that they have been in the winner's circle there before.
Yes, I believe they have. Yep. And did you watch it this year when they blew the left rear tire out? Not sure how bad that hurt them, but it was pretty close to the end of the run. But I'm sure, sure didn't help.
I had forgotten about it until you brought it back up. The other wild run we had from last year, and this guy goes there frequently. He pulled a little with Outlaws this year, but the Run Wild Texas style, who not often do you see 4-wheel drive trucks get sideways and squirrely and going out of bounds, but he ran that thing all over the track at Louisville last year. He's definitely been there several times. It'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with him. So,
yeah, it's an interesting sensation actually when you're pulling down the track and you're in a 4-wheel drive and it starts kind of crab walking. You kind of get in some ruts. It kind of tracks down the track sideways. It's kind of a weird sensation. But
does that come from like unloading the back tires? You just get a little light in the rear. Or you just kind of hit a spot where that just gets a little bit of a. If
you're trying to steer a certain direction and you get a little sideways, the back tires might get in some ruts and the fronts get in some ruts and it just kind of holds you there, I think is what happens when it kind of crab walks like that. But Super Farm.
Oh, yeah. There's one I've got on my list. Mark Roberts.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He represented the Outlaws last year. And speaking of challenges, it's a challenge for Outlaw Super Farms to go pull at Louisville because they have to completely change the combination. The rules a little bit different there than they are for the Outlaws. The Outlaws have their own kind of rules for Super Farm, as far as not running intercoolers and such and turbos. Our Super Farms run a box turbo, but he will change that combination. He's represented the Outlaws before there and done an awesome job representing.
The other ones who really, very, very similar. And I hate to use the expression have their backs against the wall, but it definitely forces them to make some changes are our 10,000 pound pro stocks, which run the 5.0 turbo and get invited in powerful numbers every year, but essentially have to strap on the bigger turbo if they're going to run and be competitive it's basically
it's not as simple as just strapping on that big turbo. It's a complete a setup change. Engine.
Like Cody Yarick, I think was talking on, you had him on the show. It's been a while ago now, but he said, you don't just put a new turbo on because then you're pushing so much power. Every weak link you have behind that is now exposed. He goes, so you essentially just have to take your plumbing backwards and just overhaul everything because nothing is used to that amount of pressure, that amount of boost.
It's a considerable expense to go from the 5-inch like Outlaw Pro Stock to the big Pro Stock, say within TPA or PPL. So you're not. I doubt if anybody with the Outlaws. I know Medding did last year. Clint Medding did last year with their 2 tractors, and he kept that combination and just kind of ran with. Didn't make any Outlaw hooks, of course, because he had the bigger turbo setup. But never know. We might see him back someday. Kind of miss the Medding boys, Medding family out there on the road.
Kind of to Cody's point too, if you remember right, I don't remember if it was in a qualifying hook or if it was at the Saturday night finals, but there was oil just running down the side shield after Medding's pass, and you know more about that than me, but something wasn't how it was supposed to be. I mean, he had pushed a lot of power to that and hurt something internally when he put that whole new setup on.
Yeah, I talked to him. I think it was after they made a test hook, and then he won the first session.
Yeah, he did.
I remember right, but he hurt it.
Yeah,
and I remember talking to him in Broadbent Arena, like the next day, and they had metal in the filter, and they were changing oil and running it the way it was. So, yeah, they heard it. It was pretty expensive week for Clint Medding last year, or this year, I should say, at Louisville.
Do we have other super farms outside of Spanky's Toy that we know about?
Not that we know of. I mean, I am monitoring it. I'm reaching out to, the top 4 or 5 in the points finals this year to see.
And one thing people need to remember, and I didn't understand this as a fan for a while, the pullers have to apply. I always assumed that this was people on a phone in Louisville calling and saying, "Hey, will you come? Will you come?" So, if you look down and you're like, "Well, why is a number 4 finisher in and a number 1 finisher not in?" Some of these guys might choose for whatever reasons not to apply. Like you said, the tractor setup might be different. They might be driving from a distance that's too far for them. Maybe they don't prefer indoor pulling. I know there's a couple legendary pullers out there across all 3 sanctions who've just never gone. Some of the winningest pullers of all time, just because it's not their setup.
So yeah, just a shout out to the Outlaw pullers. Yeah, let us know. I mean, we've got like light super stock. We don't know who applied, who got in. You got Justin Hoffman, of course, Brian Bowles, usually represents the Outlaws there, as well as Justin Hoffman. Light Pro stock, 540 Light Pros. Let us know if you're watching. Send us a shout out here. Let us know.
Yeah, and you can just kind of scroll through on the app too, and names stand off to it. I'm thinking of different experiences I've had. I've ones that this year might not be the best year, might not be the most best fit for them. But if you just scroll through, a lot of these guys have been there before. Like the Voodoo Deer, he's been at Freedom Hall before. Obviously, Red Ink, was a staple there for a handful of years. But then kind of what I was saying earlier, as I'm scrolling down the light super stocks, Big Temptation and Little Temptation, been in the sport of pulling a long time. I cannot recall ever seeing them in Louisville, and I just assume that's they choose not to apply based on whatever setup and whatever travel plans and what they're doing, because you would imagine that definitely they're deserving to be there. So
looking at the light super stock class, of course, Justin Hoffman with last one standing, you would think he'd be a shoe in. We're kind of waiting for him to see if he got in. Frank Bowleboy with Green Lightning had an awesome year.
Yes, he did
this year. Yes, he really came on strong at the end of the year, and finished second in points. I mean, he would represent well. And then the Haugs, of course, 3rd and 4th with Little and Big. Temptation. Another tractor that really improved this year in that light superstock class was Ryan Frericks, the Addiction tractor. Really market improvement with that tractor this year over years past. I got a lot of the bugs worked out of it. What was the name of the truck I used to pull? Well, it was called the Underdog, Adam. It was a super street class, though. It was not streetable at that point when I pulled it. small block class, made about 750 horse on DOT tires. I'll find some video out there on one of these shows and play a little bit of that.
Was MSTPA? Is that where you pulled
it?
It
was actually an organization that I started in Kansas called the Flint Hills Truck Pullers.
Oh, cool.
And I actually drew up all the rules for that. We started out as a bunch of farm trucks, and within about 5 years, we were a legitimate pulling organization with some really nice trucks. But yeah, I'll dig those out someday and show them on the show here. And that name of the truck was kind of goes back to my favorite four-wheel drive truck from back when I was a kid. And that was the Sullivan's family out of Kentucky had a super modified four-wheel drive called the Underdog. But I always had the smallest engine too, so it was a perfect name for the truck because I was literally the underdog most of the time. But Tammy Morris did Scrappy get in the diesel super. This I do not know.
This has been so Scrappy. The diesel super stock class. Fans love. I mean, this is, and if you're an old school puller, you love because this is the old 7,500 pound super stocks. They're still blowing smoke. Just back in the day class. And when Scrappy started doing what he was doing, people fell in love with that tractor immediately, with it being the Minneapolis Moline sheet metal. And then the year, not this year, but last year, where he essentially swept the year. And so this has been probably the biggest question I've heard every year around Louisville is we want to see Scrappy. We want to see Scrappy going up against the other organization that runs diesel supers. And we got that. We didn't see him at Louisville last year. And the only he literally went undefeated. So I'm just assuming that was he didn't apply. We did get to see that head-to-head matchup at the Pullers Championship where he experienced some breakage. But this is to answer your question, Tammy, the fans want this. They want to see Scrappy at Freedom Hall. Now, whether or not that's in their plans, I don't know.
Yeah, I reached out to Doug. I'm not sure if Doug is a fan of indoor pulling. It seems like I've talked to him about that before. Some pullers just don't like changing their setups.
Yeah.
Don't like to go indoors. I mean, it's just, for example, doing the Cowtown Showdown. It seems like not the Cotton Candy crew, but the Sweet Pain crew just wasn't a fan of pulling indoors that much. So yeah, we'll get back to you on the Scrappy deal. See if
that's the question heard around the pulling world right there, no doubt about it. But I think you're hitting it right on the nose, Ron. Some people it's not what they prefer to do. So
Jake, leader, Black Magic Gauge, Shottle, Case Tractor. He represents PPL, but yeah, I saw where they got in. That's kind of one of my favorite. I'm partial to the Case tractors, Mike, if you didn't know.
Beautiful tractors, the old school Cases.
Jacob, well, how many 4-1s do you think are going right now? Our assumption is 3, hopefully 4, fingers crossed.
What's the schedule on the 4-1s? I don't remember. Are they just a single night of pulling, or do they have multiple qualifyings and then finals on Saturday night? Because they were one of the newer ones to be added. So I don't remember if they just get a single night of pulling or if I think they qualify and have a Saturday night finals.
Well, let's go right here to this comment. Teresa Novak, Green Lightning, Frank Boy did get in. Awesome. Green Lightning representing Nebraska, representing the Outlaws in the light superstock class. Going to Louisville. Yeah, update your list there.
I like that it's actively growing. This is fun to do this live and to hear these comments. And just to kind of stick our chests out with pride a little bit. I've got 1, 2. And now some of these are like a couple of these are multiple drivers for one vehicle, but not many of them. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. About 16, 13, 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there is what I'm sitting at right now. That's
okay.
That's no slouch.
Yeah, I have the list from last year somewhere here. But it seems like 16 was about the number last year, if I remember right. That represented Outlaws. So I'll find that while you're chatting in a minute.
And I want to talk about this too. It's good. A good thing for people to remember is a lot of the pullers and the scheduling and the classes that Outlaw campaigns and caters to does not correlate specifically or straight up does not pull at Louisville, we've got some hard runners in classes like the light limited pro stocks that don't pull there, the pro stock four-wheel drive trucks that don't pull there, the limited or the light modifieds. And it just, I always sit there and I love to speculate, and I'm like, but if they did, who would get in? So you almost have to look at the Outlaws and say, of our qualifying classes, there's about maybe 5 or 6 of them, so, and even Cameron Neves, to go back to what we're saying with him, has to make major adjustments for his tractor, his modified tractor, to meet the specs to go there. So it's so if you're at 16 out of 4 or 5 classes, you're hitting it pretty heavy.
Here's the list from last year. We had 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 that went representing Outlaws in 2023.
Yeah, I've got 15, 16 if we include David Hunt that we talked about with those Texas tractor pullers. The high cotton.
And there was a pro stock besides the Medigs that went and represented Outlaws. Gary Porter, but I don't think they changed much in the way of combination. But Gary Porter did represent the Outlaws in the pro stock class last year.
And we don't have George. We don't have George Byer written down. So if George would take a break from pumping and text and say like, "Oh yeah, don't worry guys, I'm in." So the 540s. Did we talk much about the light pros? Did we nail any of them down?
Not yet. The Grimes family, Justin Grimes, represented the Outlaws in Louisville I keep saying last year, but this year.
Yeah, that's not. I'm a teacher, so last year is this year is, they're always on 2 years in a year. I get it.
Andrew Sprock, thanks for watching. Wishing luck to everybody that got in. Eric Claypool, once again, says I'm his hero. Cole Lundahl, let's see. Talk about the Beardless Ford Super Arms having all 150 applications each class the committee had to select from. That would be a tough job. Of course, I think you start with those points leaders, you go with the number ones, and work your way down. Jake Leader says 10 a.m. Thursday. You must be referring to the 4 ones that you were asking that question a little bit ago.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Yeah, that's early, isn't it? Is that right? Yeah, 18 represented in 2023. We'll see what the number ends up being in 2024. So, we learned Frank Bowboy is in with the light super stocks. And hopefully we'll get some more. Jake Leader said yes. So he must be looking at the schedule. 10 a.m.
That's awesome.
Weigh in at 8 a.m., pulling at 10 a.m. Brian Cruz. Hello, everyone. Good luck to the Outlaws pulling at Louisville. Thanks, Brian. We're just waiting on updates.
Yeah. I feel that this year was a big year for Outlaw pulling. I feel like a lot of big stories, a lot of good things happened. A lot of drivers really drew a lot of good attention to themselves. I wouldn't be surprised to see this list at 20 when we are all said and done. I can still think of others that have pulled there in the past that this year might have looked a little different for them. Like we said, with things like Red Ink and Voodoo Deer. If we go back over to the town 5 miles straight east of here in Macon, Missouri, Eric Claypool's hometown, they sent 2 just a few years ago with Joe and Eric Claypool, but also the Sweet Heat 2-wheel drive truck. Driven by, I think it was Trevor Fitzsimmons that was driving it, pulled there. So that's always fun when you can get these small towns sending multiple people to the biggest stage out there.
So my what I said about my Singer and Scrappy was true. He didn't even apply to go. I remember that conversation. But I talked to a lot of pullers, throughout the season, and I wasn't 100% sure, but I was remotely sure that he had said that to me, that he just wasn't a fan of indoor pulling. So Scrappy won't be going because he did not apply.
Not unheard of, and that's not a reflection in any way of anything other than the fact that person chooses to keep their outdoor setup, and that's not where they want to be. I mean, I'm telling you, I can think of some legendary pullers that are just like, nah, not for us.
Jake Leader is asking, will the show be broadcasted? Yes, it will be live streamed.
Yep.
If you go to the National Farm Machinery Show's website, I think it's nfms.com. Usually I just punch in NFMS in Google and it takes you right there.
Yeah.
You can find information on the tractor pull and how to live stream it. They live stream every session.
Yep.
So yes, and we'll pass that information along in the weeks leading up to it. So if you want to watch that live stream, you can. I'm pretty sure, besides Bowling Green, it's probably the most watched truck and tractor pulling event in the world as far as live streaming.
I would almost say it might even be more so. And I'm sitting here crunching the numbers. So Freedom Hall seats like 16,000, and they sell it out Saturday night, maybe Saturday after. They sell out almost every night. So if you do a total count,
we did this year.
I mean, for total attendance over this, 6 sessions, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I guess it's 5 sessions. That's a lot of. That's even just butts in seats. You're looking at potentially 50,000 people watching truck and tractor pulling that week. And
it's pretty interesting too that usually they have a basketball game in there on Sunday afternoon. They get all that dirt out there to set it up for a basketball game.
Have you seen the time lapse of them cleaning it?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
it's something to see.
I've seen that cleanup part firsthand too with the Cowtown Showdown. Yeah, that's a big job. That's a big job cleaning and then just sweeping the floor. And that's a lot of labor intensive.
Well, so I'm going to get off the rails a little bit here because that one's kind of in both our backyards. My father's been to it. I haven't been to it. And it sounds like you're pretty heavily and directly involved in it. Cowtown Showdown, do we in our bones feel like that's something that's going to be what's that look like in the future? Or fingers crossed, are we hoping that we see it again? I'll phrase the question that way. Fingers crossed, are we hoping we see it again?
Not going to divulge any information tonight.
Okay.
But it's a possibility. What the future holds beyond 2024, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
There is another facility being built on the Kansas side out close to the Speedway, the American Royal. They have extended an invitation for us to come pull there in that brand new facility when it's done. So we'll see what the future holds here. So look for an update here by the end of the week.
That's awesome.
Happen.
That's awesome. Indoor pulling less than 2 hours from home trip is just that excites me. So I'll just leave it that way.
James O'Harmon says it's on his bucket list to attend the Farm Machinery Show. Absolutely, you got to go.
Yeah, I would second that. And I've been to Bowling Green. I've been to National Farm Machinery Show. I don't want to sit here and compare because it is what it is, but you need to go if you're a tractor pulling fan, or if even you're an agricultural fan. If you're an American, I don't know. I mean, there's something there for everybody. There's something there for everybody. But the pull itself is something truly special.
We got the Bowling Green Party Advocate checking in, saying Outlaw rocks. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Marty Samuelson, how many changes do they have to make from outside to inside pulling? Well, one thing they have to make, they have to do usually that's not required in all organizations outside, is you have to have that secondary hook point for the safety chain on an indoor pull. Absolutely. Compensating for air is a big deal. Of course, they have to pull a smoke tube in the diesel classes. But yeah, accounting for that air quality difference indoors in February, it makes a big difference. I mean, they have to account for that.
I don't know. And the track, they've used the same dirt there for forever, but the track last year, I heard a lot of drivers say, was quite a bit stickier too. And it's notoriously has what they call the Louisville left turn, so it's going to hook you. You're going to have all your everything balanced there. But I think the more you talk about the air, and I would think the weather with that air when they're transitioning, because Kentucky in February can be far enough south to where maybe it's, flirting and being in the 60s, but maybe it's snowing outside. And I think sometimes when you bring those tractors from the outside down into the arena, and I've even heard them say it's warmer at the end of the track than it is at the beginning of the track. And then that can influence, the way everything breathes too. Back in the day, they used to talk about how much more flex they would want in their chassis. They would want,
I don't remember which way was which, but I want to say indoor they would want to have quite a bit more flex, and outdoor they would want a much more rigid chassis. And this is in like the modifieds and things like that. And that was kind of what made the Angler chassis so desirable. The Anglers were such a much more flexible chassis. And now today, almost everybody runs the Angler chassis in the modified class. And I think that was a byproduct of indoor pulling.
Brandon Benton, blown two-wheel drives in Cowtown. The Bentons there. Brandon's dad's been pulling for years. I saw him pull when I was a kid back at Tays Valley, but they live there close to Cincinnati, on the east side of Cincinnati. Of course, we'd have blown two-wheel drives there, Brandon. But we do have to be careful with the alcohol classes at Cowtown because the ventilation isn't as good as we'd like it to be. And breathing in all those alcohol fumes, one blown two-wheel drive motor can put out a lot of exhaust fumes in an arena like that in 15 seconds or less.
When you've got the cheap seats at the National Farm Machinery Show and, you're sitting here and the ceiling is right here, you don't need a lot of beer. Those fumes get up there and you're gonna know that you're at an indoor pull.
Yeah, I know at Cowtown, the manager of the facility did, tell me that they did make repairs to the ventilation system there to bring it up to par, because that was always kind of one of my complaints with them, is that everything wasn't running like it was supposed to ventilate it like it should have. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how many people apply and if we have it. So, but yeah, that's something we definitely have to keep an eye on, is that air quality in there. And it is monitored by the city. The city has the fire department out there constantly monitoring that air quality. If the CO2 level gets up to a certain point, they warn us, and it gets a little higher, then they'll shut you down.
Wow.
Make you wait till that air quality gets back to where it needs to be in the safe zone. So,
I mean, makes sense, I guess. You got to do what you got to do.
I think the last one we had there, we actually had to take a little air quality break.
Open up some of the doors and kind of,
they were already open with the fans
it out a
blowing.
little bit. Someone plug in a fan.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, hey, want to take a second here? I know we're we're getting close to the end of the show. Want to thank our sponsors with the Outlaws. Of course, we wouldn't be out pulling all season long without our sponsors. I just want to hit some of those sponsors real quick. Case IH, of course, the title sponsor of the Outlaws. Titan International, maker of Goodyear Farm Tires, Titan Farm Tires, FrostedFrog.com, EcoTuning.com, DeKalb and Asgrow. DeKalb, the official seed corn of the Outlaws. Coltrane Energy, VP Racing Fuels, Organics Midwest. For some reason, I got to find the pick. It should have been right there in order. There it is. Well, it brings up as up in the corner there. So Organics Midwest, I'll get that fixed for next week. For some reason, it didn't save. But yeah, thanks to all the sponsors that make the Outlaw season what it is every season. And that's just a handful of sponsors that make it happen. So obviously, there's more we could talk about, but those are some of our bigger sponsors with the Outlaws. Comments, Jake the Leader. How often are you guys live? Every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, Jake. Marty Samuelson says, have a great Christmas. You do the same, Marty. Super fan. I hope Santa brings you some Outlaw or truck and tractor pulling related gifts for your Christmas this year. So I'm not getting any more updates here.
Did the last thing I was going to talk about just really quick, it looked like I was out playing on the Outlaw website today, and it looks like the 2024 edition of the rule book has been published. Is that all confirmed and public and everything?
I'm not sure if it's public yet. I know I have a copy of it that was sent to me to check for just clerical errors and mistakes, but it may be out there by now.
Yep, it looked like it was. If you did some digging, it was out on the website, and So
Okay.
kind of always fun to flip through. I know some of the organizations are posting up their new rule changes, and we as the keyboard pullers always like to sit back and speculate and talk about, what's new and what's different and everything. So look like that might be publicly out there soon.
We need the news flash, the
Yeah.
We need that when this happens. George Byer is in. The side piece is in.
Oh, perfect. There we go.
Hey,
that works out well because isn't it always late in the show when we're trying to get George Byer on here? Isn't it always right when we're running out of time? It's there's old George Byer.
I'm not going to give him too much of a hard time. We finally got him on, and he was working pretty hard there through harvest and such. So, well, here's a message here. James Harmon, the Iowa Antique Tractor Pullers, want to thank Dave Nelson for all his help. He's sending out great news after the 1st of January 24. So Dave Nelson, one of our leaders with the Outlaws. So that's cool. So, yeah. So what are we at now? What's our numbers now? And we haven't heard anything from the 540 Light Pro. We haven't heard anything from Light Super Stock. We got 6-9.
I've got 16 right now, but I teach English, not math, so you might want to count for me again.
16.
16, but that would be with Cameron Pascal and Seth Markey. So 15 vehicles.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 14. Sorry.
Well, and then I've got David Hunt on here too, so that would 14, and then one plus one from Texas.
Okay. Be interesting to see if any other Light Super Stocks got in. Justin Hoffman, if he applied and got in. And then 540 Light Pro.
Yeah, as I'm just kind of scrolling through all the classes here, let's do this really quick. So 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, 540 diesel supers, the 4-1s, and the super farms, and the mods. I guess so. We have seven available qualifying classes. And then that's keeping in mind the super farms have to make a pretty big jump. I might have skipped the pro stocks, but the pro stocks have to make a considerable jump as well.
Yeah.
So there's, when you're looking at your class to numbers ratio, and the week is early. I think we'll still hear from more.
Yeah, I reached out to Ryan Mitchell to see if they got in. Of course, they won our points in that 540 Light Pro class.
The Thorntons, are they just taking Thumper, or are they taking Backdraft as well?
No, Thumper, just Thumper.
Just Thumper.
Yeah,
so we've got Thumper, Risky. So we've got the top three. We've got the top 3 4-wheel drive trucks going. And then that kind of looks like that's where the line was drawn there then.
Dallas Todd, is the Windsor, Colorado pull going to happen? I don't think so, Dallas. I've heard nothing from them. And the last I heard, if we had it again, they were going to have to move locations again as well. So, and I think they were wanting to drop back to just a one-day pull. And where most of our pullers, the core group of our pullers are located, it'd be hard to get them all out there for a one-night event going as far as Colorado. So
the bummer about that is what a backdrop, what a scenic backdrop for truck and tractor pulling that was. That was something neat to look at the pictures and live stream and stuff. So
yeah, that was pretty cool to see the Rocky Mountains. When you looked west and saw those Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I mean, the pit area was a little far away. And I think the biggest complaint we had from pullers was they wanted to watch other people pull in their class, before and after they pulled, and they were unable to do that because they had to tow them, a quarter of a mile away down to the pit area. But it was, like you said, that it was an experience to have an event there. And the track actually, with the hard work of Kevin Byer and Ryan Boyson and everybody else that helped, I think maybe Richard Morris was involved in that as well. They dumped, I don't know how much water into that track for 2 days. And it surprised some people how good it was. And nobody was expecting, they were expecting that typical Colorado track.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Ryan Mitchell, and I'll reach out to Rich Johnson, and John Narragon finished third in points in that 540 class. So I mean, he could potentially be in there as well.
Yeah, I could see the Shag. Now he's been there before. Shag Nasty's been there before, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's what I thought. It was also just a quick history on that tractor. It's jumped classes. That tractor at one point was a 4.1, right? And then
I think it was 8,500.
Light Limited Pro.
Light Limited Pro, I believe.
Okay, that would make more sense. It would be
that was to
go from like 640 to 540, but so yeah, it would make a lot more sense to jump up from Light Limited Pro.
466. Yeah, that was a common transition was from those two classes. 466 guys jumping up to 540. Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed for those guys and hope for some good news.
Definitely
come out of those camps. Yeah, Brian Cruz said 8,500 Limited Pro. We call it Light Limited Pro with the Outlaws. Did Sydney Summers get in? I do not know. I think we might have seen something by now. Not sure they hit a lot of pulls this past season with either us or the Pro Polling League Western Series. But I think they just kind of hit a handful of pulls with each and called it a year. So, of course, Sydney Summers engaged to be married. So congratulations to her. They'll be getting married. I don't know when the date is. I'm assuming before pulling season, though, Michael. They're a pulling family. So
are they the ones that got engaged at the banquet?
No, that was actually Justin Hoffman.
Okay.
Yeah. Mark Anderson chiming in. Hey, guys, sorry. I enjoy the pulling clip. Started pulling because I got a kick out of the name. I'm not sure what Jabber job it. Blessed evening to you all. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, Mark. So, I mean, we'll call it an evening here, Mike.
I'm sifting through the classes, and I think we've about chewed on everything there is to be. It is to be chewed on so far, and we'll just have to wait and see what trickles in.
Watching my phone and hoping to get some updates from some pullers. Like I said, we had 18 representing Outlaws in 2023. Maybe we'll have 18 plus this year for the 2024 Farm Machinery Show. So,
what does Outlawed Live look like over the next 2 holiday weeks?
We'll have a special show on next Tuesday, the day after Christmas. Maybe a short show. We might go a whole hour. We'll see how many people tune in. And a lot of people will be with their families. That could work either way, folks.
Yeah,
might be tired of their families already, want to get back to watch some pulling, or they might, just be sitting around hanging out. And if we only have a handful of people watching, we'll keep it short next week. But we'll bring up a bunch of clips highlighting the season, of course, because that'll be our last show of the year, right?
Last one of 2023, won't it?
So absolutely. So we'll get a bunch of clips together from the season, some highlights and things like that, some highlight reels, and play those next week on the final show of the year. So, Mike, thank you. Thank everyone for tuning in to Outlawed Live. Hope you have a great evening. Have a great Christmas. Have a Merry Christmas and a safe one as well. And to you as well, Mike.
Yep. You also, Ron. And congratulations to all the ones who've made it in the National Farm Machinery Show. Never take that for granted. That's a huge honor. And that pulling's fun, folks. Makes it fun for everyone involved. So congratulations to those competitors.
Yeah. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.
Supercharged big block Chevrolet's Cotton Candy. Cameron Neves out of McAdoo, Texas, triple engine big block Chevrolet's Cotton Candy. McAdoo, Texas, Cotton Candy.
Pat.